A week before her birthday, my daughter said the best gift would be if I just died. So I granted her wish. After cutting off the house funds and taking everything, I disappeared. What I left on her table shattered her completely. Can you imagine your own child, the one you gave absolutely everything to, looking you dead in the eye on her 45th birthday and wishing you were dead? Not just wishing, but saying it out loud, as if it was the most natural, justifiable thing in the world. That was my daughter, Rebecca, and the shocking words she uttered that day ripped my heart out, but they also ignited a fire within me that had been dormant for decades. It all started on Rebecca's birthday. I arrived at her beautiful home, the one I'd helped finance, clutching a $200 cake from her favorite bakery. For my only child, no expense was too great. I stood at her door, a smile on my face, expecting the usual birthday hug, maybe even a little squeal of delight like when she was a little girl. But when she opened the door, her face was a mask of pure annoyance. "Oh, it's you," she muttered, not even making eye contact. "Happy birthday, my love," I said, my smile faltering, holding out the cake with the candles already lit. "Your favorite chocolate with strawberries, just like you used to love." Rebecca sighed, a deep, heavy sigh, as if my very presence was an unbearable burden. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, her voice dry, letting me inside without a single word of thanks for the cake. We sat in her living room, a room in a house I'd poured my life savings into, $150,000, money I'd saved penny by penny from 40 years of working double shifts as a nurse. "You know, Mom," Rebecca began, her voice ice cold, the same tone she developed over the past few years. "I've been thinking a lot about my birthday, about presents, and about what would truly make me happy." I nodded, enthusiastic, eager to please. "Of course, my love. Tell me what you want. A trip? Jewelry? That new car you mentioned?" Then she looked me straight in the eye, and what I saw there sent a chill down my spine. It was pure, unadulterated contempt. "The one thing I'd love most as a birthday present," she said slowly, savoring each word like poison, "is for you to just die." The world stopped. I swear, I physically felt my heart tear from my chest. Her words echoed, an endless loop of agony. My daughter. My own daughter. She wished for my death. "What? What did you just say?" I managed to whisper, tears blurring my vision. "You heard me," she continued, her voice cutting through me like knives. "I'm tired of you, Mom. Tired of your constant calls, your unexpected visits, of you always being here, bothering me. My life would be so much easier and happier if you would just disappear." My hands shook uncontrollably. 72 years I'd lived, 45 of them as her mother, and never, not once, did I imagine those words would come out of her mouth. "Rebecca," I sobbed, "I'm your mother. I've given you everything. I've sacrificed everything for you." "Exactly," she interrupted, standing up. "And that's why you're suffocating me. I can't breathe with your constant presence. I need freedom. I need you to let me live my life without your drama and your emotional needs." The $200 cake, its candles melting, was still in my trembling hands. All my dreams for that day, hugs, laughter, a family dinner, vanished like smoke. "But honey," I tried one last time, "I just want to be close to you, to be a part of your life. You're all I have." "And that's exactly the problem," she snapped, crossing her arms. "The fact that I'm all you have. Go get a life of your own and leave me alone." I got up, my legs barely holding me, carrying that cake that now felt like a cruel mockery. "I can't believe you're saying this to me, after everything I've done for you," I murmured. "Everything you've done," she scoffed, a sarcastic laugh escaping her lips. "Mom, everything you've done has been for your own benefit, to feel needed, to have control over my life. But I'm not a little girl anymore." I walked toward the door, each step costing me years of my life. At the threshold, I turned, one last desperate hope to see some regret in her eyes, a hint of the sweet little girl she once was. But there was only impatience. Impatience for me to leave, so she could celebrate her birthday without the nuisance I represented. "Happy birthday, Rebecca," I whispered, and walked out, closing the door behind me. I didn't know then, but it would be the last time I entered that house as the mother who had sacrificed everything. Because what she didn't know was that she had just awakened something in me that had been dormant for decades. I arrived back at my small apartment, legs trembling, heart utterly shattered. The $200 cake ended up in the trash, its melted candles a reflection of my endless tears. I sat on my old sofa, the same one where I'd nursed Rebecca as a baby, read her stories, and cried tears of happiness every time she called me Mom. How had I ended up here? How could my own daughter, the child I carried for 9 months, wish for my death with such coldness? I started to remember everything, every single thing I'd done for her over 45 years. When she had pneumonia at 3, I worked triple shifts to pay for $1,200 in antibiotics, selling my late mother's jewelry. When she turned 16 and wanted that $800 pink prom dress, I worked every weekend for 4 months. I remember how her eyes sparkled. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best in the world," she'd hug me tight. In college, when she changed her major 3 times, I paid for every semester without a complaint, $42,000 in total, taking a second mortgage on my house. "Don't worry, honey," I'd always say. "Your education is the most important thing." When she married David, I organized and paid for the entire $35,000 wedding. The most elegant ballroom, the most beautiful flowers, the menu she chose without worrying about price. "My princess deserves everything," I told her, signing check after check. Then came the house, that very house where she just humiliated me. When Rebecca and David wanted their first property, I didn't hesitate. "Don't worry about the down payment," I told them. It was $150,000 from my retirement savings. But it didn't end there. When the twins arrived 5 years ago, I became the free babysitter. Every time they had plans, there I was, not charging a cent, happy to help my daughter live her dream life. When David lost his job last year, who paid the mortgage for 8 months? Me. $16,000 for my pension, meaning rice and beans for weeks for me. And the twins' braces, another $4,000. "That's what grandparents are for," I'd said, seeing their distressed faces. I got up and went to my desk, where I kept all the receipts. Boxes and boxes of documents, not out of mistrust, but pride in what I'd provided. I started doing the math, raising her, college, wedding, house down payment, mortgage payments, braces, gifts over the years. The total was devastating. Over $460,000. Almost $500,000 I'd invested in my daughter's happiness. All to hear that her greatest desire was for me to die. Tears fell onto the papers. If I'd put that money in a savings account, today I'd have over $600,000. I could be traveling the world, enjoying a comfortable retirement instead of counting pennies in this tiny apartment. But no, I had invested in love, believing every sacrifice was worth it. How foolish I had been. I picked up the phone and dialed Rebecca's number. I needed to hear her voice one more time to confirm she'd really said those terrible words. "What do you want now, Mom?" she answered, annoyed after the 5th ring. "Rebecca, I need to know if you really meant what you said today," I asked, my voice trembling. "Of course I meant it," she replied, without a hint of remorse. "Mom, it's time for you to understand I need space. Your obsession with me isn't healthy." "Obsession?" I repeated, incredulous. "You call a mother's love obsession?" "Yes, exactly that. And I hope after today you finally get the message. I need you to respect my boundaries and let me live my life." I hung up without saying goodbye. No misunderstanding. My daughter truly believed my love was a burden, a problem she needed to solve. That night I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling, remembering every shared moment, every "I love you, Mom." Had it all been a lie? Or had I simply raised a daughter so selfish she couldn't see beyond her own needs? At 3 a.m., something shifted inside me. The sadness transformed into something else. Anger, indignation, a crystal-clear understanding that I had been used, manipulated, and discarded like a used tissue. My daughter wanted me to die. Well, maybe it was time to give her exactly what she asked for. The next day, I woke up with a mental clarity I hadn't experienced in years. Sadness had given way to determination. If my daughter wanted me to disappear, I would, but not in the way she expected. I put on my best clothes and went out with a defined purpose. First stop, the bank. I had a joint account with Rebecca for her house's emergency expenses, $20,000 I deposited just in case. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson," greeted Mr. Martinez, the manager who'd known me for years. "How can I help?" "I want to close joint account number 45,872,891, I said, with a smile he interpreted as kindness, but which was pure vengeance. "Are you sure?" "That account has a considerable balance of $20,000, he warned. "Completely sure. Transfer all of it to my personal account," I replied, signing with a steady hand. Seeing that $20,000 back in my account gave me a satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. It was only the beginning. Next stop, the mortgage loan office. When David was unemployed, I had co-signed their mortgage. That meant if they couldn't pay, the responsibility fell on me. But it also meant I had rights to that property. "Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Williams," the loan officer greeted me. "What brings you here?" "I want to review the mortgage contract where I appear as a co-signer," I explained. "I need to understand exactly what my rights and obligations are." While she searched for documents, I remembered signing those papers. Rebecca had cried with emotion. "Thank you, Mom. I don't know what we'd do without you. You're our savior," she'd hugged me tight. David had also thanked me, promising no late payments. "Here are the documents," Ms. Williams said, placing a thick folder in front of me. "As a co-signer, you're responsible if the primary holders can't pay. But you also have the right to reclaim the property if you believe they won't fulfill their obligations." "Exactly," I said, examining the papers. "Is there a problem with payments?" she asked. "I am evaluating the situation," I replied, putting a copy in my bag. "What would I have to do if I decided to exercise my rights?" "You would have to demonstrate a risk of default or significant delays. In your case, covering 8 months of payments last year is sufficient evidence of their lack of financial stability." "Perfect." David had lost his job again last week, information Rebecca had given me without thinking. She thought she was asking for help. She was actually handing me the weapons for my revenge. I left that office smiling. My dear daughter had no idea of the storm brewing. Third stop, my personal lawyer, Anil Adams, a 70-year-old friend of my late husband. He knew my family situation, had witnessed my sacrifices for Rebecca for decades. "Julieta," he greeted warmly. "What brings you here?" "Anil, I need your help with something very important," I said. "I want to completely change my will." His eyebrows shot up. "Has something happened with Rebecca?" I told him everything. Every hurtful word, every moment of contempt, the coldness with which she'd wished for my death. Anil listened in silence, his expression growing serious. "Julieta," he finally said, "I'm so sorry. I never thought Rebecca was capable of something like that after everything you've done." "Me neither," I sighed. "But I've made my decision. I want to leave everything to a charitable organization and a trust fund for my grandchildren, but Rebecca can't access it until they're 25. That can be done." Anil nodded, taking notes. "Do you also want to change your life insurance beneficiaries?" "Of course. Anything with Rebecca's name on it, I want to change it. My daughter wants me to die, but when I do, she's not getting a single penny." We spent 2 hours reviewing all my legal documents, my $100,000 life insurance, savings, apartment, investments. Everything once designated for Rebecca would now go to the Orphans Foundation where I'd volunteered for years. "There's something else," I said as we finished. "I want you to prepare all the documents to reclaim the house where Rebecca lives. As the co-signer, I have rights, and her husband just lost his job again." Anil's eyes lit up. "I see where you're going. Are you sure you want to go that far?" "Completely sure," I replied, with a determination that surprised even myself. My daughter said her life would be easier if I disappeared. Well, I'm going to disappear. But first, I'm going to make sure she understands exactly what it means to live without me, and without everything I've done for her. When I left Anil's office, it was dark. I walked through my neighborhood, feeling renewed, as if waking from a long dream. For 45 years, I had lived for Rebecca, sacrificed my own dreams. No more. I got back to my apartment and poured myself a glass of wine, something I hadn't done in years. Toasting myself felt incredibly liberating. I took out my phone and dialed a number I'd saved months ago but never dared to use. A travel agency specializing in retirees, offering packages for living abroad. "Good evening. This is Juliet Johnson," I said. I saw your promotion about living in Switzerland. Could you send me complete information? Of course, Mrs. Johnson. Switzerland is very popular. What kind of information do you need? Everything, I replied without hesitation. I want to know everything about how a 72-year-old person can start a new life in Switzerland. Hanging up, I looked out at the city I'd lived in my entire life. Soon, it would just be a memory. My daughter had asked for my disappearance as a birthday gift, and I was going to grant it to her in the most spectacular way possible. What Rebecca didn't know was that her wish was about to become her worst nightmare. The next few days were a roller coaster of emotions and secret preparations. Each morning, I woke with a mix of pain and determination. It was as if I'd woken from a long slumber where I had lived only to please my daughter. Now, finally, I was living for myself. On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. It was Rebecca. For a moment, my heart sped up, thinking she might have reconsidered, might apologize. How? Naive I still was. Mom, she said in that cold voice, no hello, no how are you. She went straight to the point, as if I were her personal assistant. I need you to do me a favor. What do you need? I asked, curious how far her audacity would go. The twins have a presentation at school on Friday, and David and I have an important work dinner. Could you watch them that night? The irony was delicious. The woman who wished for my death was asking me to babysit, as if I were a 24/7 resource. I can't, I replied simply. What do you mean you can't? She asked, with genuine surprise. Evidently, she wasn't used to me saying no. I have other plans, I lied, a smile she couldn't see. What plans could you possibly have? She asked, that condescending tone hurting me deeply, as if at 72 I had no right to a life. Plans that are none of your business, I replied, staying calm. Find another sitter. But Mom, I can't get a sitter on such short notice. Besides, since when do you charge me to watch your own grandchildren? There it was, the emotional manipulation she'd used for years. But not this time. Since you told me your greatest gift would be for me to die, I answered, my voice cold. If you want me to disappear from your life, I'm starting now. A long silence. Then, Rebecca let out a sarcastic laugh. Seriously? You're going to punish me like you're a little brat? I thought after a few days the drama would be over. It's not drama, Rebecca. It's respect for your wish. You wanted me to disappear, so that's what I'll do. Fine, she said, annoyed. If you want to be that childish, that's on you. But don't come crying later when you're lonely. She hung up. Perfect. Every interaction confirmed I was making the right decision. That afternoon, I went to the bank again. This time to do something I never thought I would. Withdraw most of my savings in cash. $30,000 that I put in an envelope and stored in my personal safe, the money for my new life in Switzerland. I called the travel agency and confirmed my trip, a flight to Zurich for next Tuesday, with an indefinite extension option. The initial cost was $5,000, money I paid without blinking. It was the most expensive and most intelligent investment I'd made in years. On Thursday morning, I received an unexpected visit. My neighbor, Elvira, a 68-year-old woman with whom I'd become close. Julieta, she said, sitting in my living room with coffee. You look different these days. Has something happened? Elvira had been a silent witness to my sacrifices, seen me cancel plans to rush to Rebecca, seen the expensive food I'd buy for my daughter while I ate canned soup. I told her everything, every painful detail of Rebecca's birthday and all my plans. My God, Julieta, Elvira murmured, eyes tearing up. I can't believe Rebecca would say something so cruel after everything you've done. The worst part is she said it as if it were the most normal thing, I explained. As if I were a nuisance to be eliminated. And you're really going to Switzerland? Yes, I replied firmly. I've already bought the ticket. I leave Tuesday. Elvira took my hands. You know you have my full support, right? What Rebecca did is unforgivable. There's something else, I whispered. I'm going to need your help with something very important. I explained my complete plan, how I wanted Rebecca to believe I had truly died, at least for a while. Elvira would be my accomplice, the one who would find my empty apartment and my farewell letter. It's brilliant, Elvira murmured with a mischievous smile. That ungrateful child is finally going to understand what it means to lose you. Will you help me? Of course. In fact, I think it's exactly what Rebecca needs to wake up. That night, I worked on the most important letter of my life. The one Rebecca would find that would change everything. I wrote and rewrote every word, making sure it conveyed exactly what I wanted to say. My dear Rebecca, the letter began. You asked me as a birthday gift to disappear from your life, and I have decided to grant your wish. When you read this, I will already be far from here, starting the life I should have lived years ago instead of sacrificing it all for you. I wrote for hours, documenting every penny, every sacrifice, every missed opportunity. It wasn't a bitter letter, it was an educational one. I wanted her to understand exactly what she had lost. Along with this letter, you will find all the legal documents I have signed this week. I continued, the change of will, the cancellation of her health insurance I paid for, the notification that as co-signer, I was exercising my rights due to David's job instability, and the cancellation of all financial benefits from me. It was a 23-page letter, meticulously detailing everything that would change in her life now that I had disappeared, just as she wanted. Your life will be much easier without me, the letter ended, but it will also be much more expensive. I hope it's worth it. On Friday night, as I packed my belongings into 2 suitcases, Rebecca called. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times, but I let the phone ring. I had nothing left to say. The next day, Saturday, David appeared at my door. He looked exhausted and desperate. Julieta, he pleaded. Rebecca told me what happened. I know what she said was wrong, but please don't do this to our family. Do what? I asked, feigning innocence. Stop helping us. Just withdrawing from our lives like this. The kids need you. We need you. How interesting. When Rebecca wanted to get rid of me, I was a nuisance. But when they realized everything I did, suddenly they needed me. David, I said calmly, your wife was very clear with me. My presence in her life is a burden she no longer wants to bear. I'm just respecting her wishes. But Julieta, you know how Rebecca is when she gets mad. She didn't mean it. Oh, she didn't? Because she sounded pretty convincing when she wished for my death as a birthday gift. David lowered his head. He had no argument. Please, he insisted, give me a chance to fix this. I'll talk to Rebecca. I'll make her understand how wrong she is. It's too late for that, I replied, slowly closing the door. Give my grandchildren a kiss for me. Sunday was my last day in that city. I spent the morning walking through places important to me. The hospital where I'd worked, the park where I'd taken Rebecca as a child, the church where I married her father. It was my silent farewell to a life lived completely for others. On Monday, I would begin a life finally lived for myself. Sunday night, I couldn't sleep, not from nerves or regret, but from an emotion I hadn't felt in decades, the anticipation of an adventure. At 72, I was about to begin the life I'd always dreamed of but never dared to live. At 5 a.m. on Monday, Elvira knocked as we'd arranged. She brought fresh coffee and a knowing smile. Ready for your great escape, she winked. More than ready, I replied, carrying my 2 suitcases. Do you have the spare keys to my apartment? Here they are, she said. And I have the letter for Rebecca and all the legal documents you're going to leave on her table. We'd planned everything meticulously. Elvira would wait until Wednesday to go to Rebecca's apartment and deliver the documents, pretending she'd found my apartment empty and was worried. She would break the news to Rebecca that I was gone forever. Remember, I said as we called a cab, you have to act very worried. Tell her I didn't answer for 2 days, that you knocked, and when you used the emergency keys, you found the apartment empty in the letter. Don't worry, Julieta. I was a drama teacher for 30 years. It's going to be the performance of my life, Elvira told me with a mischievous smile. The cab arrived at 6 a.m. As they loaded my suitcases, I took one last look at my apartment. I'd lived there for 15 years, but strangely, I felt no nostalgia. It was as if I was finally freeing myself from a prison I had built. To the airport, the driver asked. To the airport, I confirmed, and those 2 words felt like the beginning of my new existence. During the 40-minute ride, I thought about everything I was leaving behind, volunteer work, routines, constant worry about Rebecca. But I also thought about everything that awaited me, freedom to make my own decisions, to spend my money on myself, to live without the constant weight of my daughter's emotional demands. At the airport, while waiting for my flight, I received 3 calls from Rebecca that I didn't answer. Then a text. "Mom, you're being ridiculous. The kids are asking about you. Call me." I deleted it without replying. It was fascinating how now that I wasn't available 24/7, she suddenly needed me. The flight to Zurich was long but peaceful. For the first time in years, no one knew where I was. No one could call for favors, money, or time. It was an intoxicating feeling of freedom I hadn't experienced since before becoming a mother. During the 12-hour journey, I wrote in my journal everything that had happened that week. Every detail, every emotion, every decision. I wanted to remember exactly what it felt like to free myself from a toxic relationship, even with my own daughter. I arrived in Zurich on Tuesday night. A kind young man named Klaus from the travel agency, speaking perfect English, met me. "Mrs. Johnson, welcome to Switzerland. I hope you're ready for a new adventure." "More than ready," I replied, and for the first time in weeks, my smile was completely authentic. Klaus took me to a beautiful furnished apartment in the center of Zurich, rented for a month while I decided whether to stay permanently. It was small but cozy, with windows overlooking a lovely park and a partial view of the lake. "Here is all the information about the city," Klaus said, handing me a thick folder. "Places to eat, activities for people your age, German classes, social groups. I've also scheduled a meeting for you with a financial advisor for tomorrow afternoon." That night, I slept better than I had in years. No phone to ring, no one needing anything, no responsibilities beyond taking care of myself. On Wednesday morning, I woke early and explored the city. I had breakfast at a charming cafe by the lake, bought fresh flowers for my temporary apartment, and for the first time in decades, spent money on something completely unnecessary, a beautiful silk scarf for $100. I bought it simply because I liked it, without worrying about the price or if that money could be better invested in my daughter's needs. As I walked, I mentally calculated how much money I'd spent on Rebecca in just the last 5 years. Mortgage payments, braces, constant gifts, gas, food, at least $50,000. $50,000 I could have used to travel the world, to live comfortably, to fulfill my own postponed dreams. Instead, I'd given it to a daughter who considered my love a burden and my presence a nuisance. At 2 p.m. Zurich time, I calculated it would be 8 a.m. in my hometown. Elvira would be preparing to go to Rebecca's apartment to deliver the letter that would change everything. I sat on a bench by the lake and waited. I knew that in a few hours, my phone would start ringing desperately. Rebecca would finally understand what it meant to truly lose me. At 5 p.m., my phone vibrated. It was Rebecca. I let it ring. Immediately, it rang again. This time, I answered. "Mom," she screamed, her voice cracking. "Where are you? Elvira came to the house with a letter from you. She said you've disappeared. What's going on?" "Hello, Rebecca," I replied calmly, enjoying the Swiss lake view. "Did you read the letter yet?" "Yes, I read it." "Are you crazy? How could you do this to us? Where are you?" "I'm exactly where I need to be," I replied. "Far away from you, just as you wanted. But I didn't want this. I didn't want you to actually leave. I was just angry. I didn't mean it." There it was, Rebecca's typical tactic, minimizing the harm, making me feel guilty. "You didn't mean it when you told me your greatest birthday wish was for me to die?" I asked, because you sounded pretty convincing. I was just frustrated. David lost his job again. The kids are giving me problems. I'm so stressed. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. "You're right. You shouldn't have. But it's done, and words can't be taken back." "But Mom, please come back. We need you." "I need you." How interesting. Now she needed me. Now that she'd read the letter about all the financial benefits she'd lost. Now that she knew she could lose her house. Now that she understood she'd have to pay for her own health insurance and find a sitter for the twins. "Do you need me, or do you need my money?" I asked directly. A long silence. "I need you," she finally murmured, but her voice wasn't convincing. "Rebecca, for 45 years I lived for you. I sacrificed my dreams, my money, my time, my opportunities. And when I finally needed to feel that you loved and valued me, you told me you'd rather I was dead. Those words broke my heart in a way I will never be able to fix. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Sorry is not enough, Rebecca. The damage is done. And you know what? Maybe it was the best thing you could have said to me, because it finally opened my eyes and made me understand that I've been living my life all wrong. What do you mean? I mean that for the first time in decades, I am living for me, and it feels wonderful. Where are you, Mom? Please tell me, Rebecca begged, her voice choked with tears. The kids are asking about their grandma. They don't understand why you haven't come to see them. It was fascinating how, now that I wasn't available, the grandchildren suddenly missed me. For all those years I canceled plans to watch them, bought expensive gifts, took them to the park while Rebecca went shopping. It was just what was expected. But now that I was gone, my absence was felt. The kids will be fine, I replied, looking at the Swiss mountains. They're resilient. What they will learn is that actions have consequences, and that hurtful words can destroy relationships forever. But Mom, please, you can't just disappear like this. What if something happens to you? What if you get sick? How will we know? Now she was worried about my well-being. How convenient. Rebecca, in the last 5 years, I've had 3 episodes of high blood pressure that sent me to the hospital. Do you know how many times you visited me? None. You always had something more important to do. So don't come to me now with concerns about my health. That's not true, she weakly protested. It is true. The first time, I called you from the emergency room. You said you couldn't come because you had a hair appointment. The second time was David's birthday. The third time, you simply didn't answer. The silence on her end confirmed she remembered. I thought it wasn't serious, she murmured. Of course, because my health was never a priority for you, but my checks were. It's not about the money, Rebecca, she screamed. It's about you. I miss you, Mom. Do you miss me, or do you miss having someone available 24/7 to solve your problems? I hung up without waiting for a response. It immediately rang again, but this time, I turned it off completely. I needed peace to enjoy my first night of freedom. That night, I went out to dinner alone at an elegant restaurant by the lake. I ordered the most expensive dish, salmon with caviar, $80, and drank an entire bottle of French wine. It had been years since I'd allowed myself such luxury, always thinking the money could be useful for Rebecca. The next day, Thursday, I turned on my phone and found 47 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Rebecca and David. The messages evolved from pleas to threats. Please, Mom, answer. We're so worried, the first said. If you don't answer, we're going to call the police, the fifth threatened. The 10th claimed, we already called the police. They said there's nothing they can do because you left a letter. The 15th admitted, the bank called us. You canceled the joint account. How are we going to pay for emergencies? It was beautiful to see how concern for my well-being quickly turned into panic over the financial implications of my absence. I decided to answer just one message. I'm fine. I'm exactly where I need to be. Don't look for me. The response came in less than 5 minutes. You don't understand what you're doing. You're going to ruin us. The mortgage lawyer called us. He says you can take our house. There it was. The truth. She wasn't worried I might be suffering or in danger. She was worried because she'd finally understood the financial implications of losing me. I replied, now you understand what it's worth to have me in your life. Too bad you realized it too late. That afternoon, I had my meeting with the Swiss financial advisor. Mr. Harmeyer, an older, very professional man, explained all my options for permanent residency. With your current savings and American pension, he explained, you can live comfortably here for the rest of your life. Switzerland has excellent medical care for retired foreigners, and the quality of life is exceptional. For the first time, I spoke openly about my finances without worrying about saving for Rebecca's emergencies. It was liberating to calculate expenses based solely on my own needs and desires. You can also invest part of your savings in the Swiss economy, Harmeyer continued. The returns are stable and secure. In 5 years, you could double your assets if you invest wisely. Double my assets? How many times had I had that opportunity, but chosen to spend the money on my daughter's whims? We have many clients in situations similar to yours, the advisor added. Older people who have come to Switzerland looking for a new start after complicated family relationships. You are not alone. That comforted me deeply. I wasn't the only mother manipulated and discarded by ungrateful children. There was a whole community of people who had chosen their own happiness over the toxic demands of their families. On Friday morning, I joined a hiking group for older people. 8 women and 4 men, all between 60 and 75, all looking for adventure. During the bus ride, I struck up a conversation with Ingrid, a 71-year-old German who had arrived 2 years earlier. "What brought you here?" she asked, admiring the landscape. "A daughter who told me her greatest birthday wish was for me to die," I answered without filters. I no longer had the energy to sugarcoat reality. Ingrid looked at me with wide eyes. Seriously, completely seriously. After financing her house, practically raising her children, and sacrificing my retirement for her, she told me my presence was an unbearable burden. "My goodness," Ingrid murmured. "And what did you do?" "I disappeared from her life, and here I am." Ingrid smiled with admiration. "You are very brave. It took me 5 years to walk away from my toxic family. My son and daughter-in-law treated me like an ATM with legs. For the rest of the day, we shared stories. She had come to Switzerland after realizing her adult children only contacted her for money. When she set boundaries, they accused her of selfishness and threatened to keep the grandchildren from her. "The first few months were difficult," Ingrid confessed as we walked through a medieval town. "Guilt ate me up. I thought maybe I really was selfish, that a good mother should always sacrifice for her children." "And what changed your perspective?" I asked. "I realized that my children never wondered if I was happy, if I had enough money, or if my constant sacrifices were hurting me. They only cared about what I could give them. That's not love, Julieta. That's exploitation." Her words resonated deeply. For decades, I had confused emotional manipulation with filial love, constant demands with genuine need. That night, in my apartment, I decided to turn on my phone for the last time in several days. I had 62 missed calls and 47 text messages, mostly from Rebecca and David, but also unknown numbers. I read the texts chronologically, observing the evolution of my daughter's panic. The first ones were emotional. "Please, Mom, come back. We need you. The kids are crying for you." But they gradually became more desperate and financial. "The bank called us for a meeting. They say as co-signer, you have the right to reclaim the house. They can't take our house away for a misunderstanding." By the 5th day, the messages were aggressive. "This is ridiculous, Mom. You're ruining our lives over a tantrum. Act like an adult and come back." And finally, desperate, "I called all the hospitals, the police, your friends. No one knows where you are. If something happens to you, it's going to be my fault. Please just tell me you're okay." It was fascinating how at no point did Rebecca genuinely apologize for wishing me dead. At no point did she acknowledge the cruelty of her words or express real remorse. It all revolved around the negative consequences my absence had for her. I decided to reply with one last message. "I am perfectly fine and happier than I have been in years. What you are experiencing now are the natural consequences of your actions. I hope this experience helps you understand the value of the people you love before it's too late with others in your life." The response came immediately. "Please, Mom, we can fix this. I promise I'll never say horrible things again. Just come back." I wrote my final response. "Empty promises don't mend broken hearts. Rebecca, the words you said to me revealed what you really think of me. You can't take that truth back with desperate promises." After sending that message, I blocked her number and all associated with David, plus the unknown numbers. It was time to close that chapter for good. On Monday morning, I met with Harmeyer to sign the papers for permanent residency in Switzerland. I also arranged to permanently transfer my American pension and begin the process of selling my apartment back home. "Are you sure you want to make this permanent?" Harmeyer asked. "It's a very big decision." "I have never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied, signing each document with a firm hand. "For the first time in decades, I am making decisions based on my own happiness, not on the demands of others." That afternoon, I received a call from Alvera. Her voice was excited. "Julieta, you have to hear this. Rebecca came to my apartment yesterday, crying hysterically. She begged me to tell you to come back, that it had been a terrible misunderstanding." "And what did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her the truth, that what she had said to you was unforgivable, and that if I were you, I would have disappeared forever too. You should have seen her face when she realized that even her neighbors knew how cruel she'd been. Did she mention the financial problems? I asked. Oh, yes. She told me that without your help they can't pay the mortgage, that the bank is pressuring them, that David can't find a stable job, and that the kids need things for school that they can't afford. Basically, she realized everything you did for them when she lost it. It was exactly what I had expected. She didn't miss me as a person. She missed my function as a financial provider and problem solver. Elvira, I told her, when someone asks about me, especially Rebecca, I want you to tell them that I'm dead to them. Because in a sense, it's true. The Julieta who constantly sacrificed herself for an ungrateful daughter really died on her birthday. I understand perfectly, Elvira replied. And you know what? I think it's the best death you could have chosen. 3 weeks after my arrival, my new life in Switzerland had taken shape in ways I never imagined. I was enrolled in German classes, a watercolor painting course, and a book club. For the first time in decades, my calendar was full of activities I chose, activities that brought me pleasure and personal growth. But the most surprising thing was the money. Without Rebecca's constant financial demands, my savings not only remained stable, but they were growing. The investments I'd made were already showing positive returns. For the first time, I could calculate my financial future based solely on my own needs. On a Thursday morning, having breakfast at my favorite cafe by the lake, I received a call from an international number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. Mrs. Julieta Johnson, a female voice with an American accent, asked. Yes, this is she. Who's calling? My name is Sarah Williams. I'm a social worker in the Family Services Department in your hometown. I'm calling because we've received a complaint about your well-being. My blood ran cold. A complaint? What kind? Your daughter, Rebecca Johnson, filed a complaint alleging that you may be suffering from dementia or cognitive decline and that you've made financial and life decisions that put you at risk. According to her, you disappeared suddenly and are living in precarious conditions abroad. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Rebecca had gone to the extreme of involving social services, inventing a mental illness to invalidate my decisions and force my return. Mrs. Williams, I replied in a firm voice, I do not suffer from dementia or cognitive decline. I am living in Switzerland by my own choice, in a comfortable apartment with excellent medical care, and in perfect mental health. My daughter's allegations are completely false. I understand, Mrs. Johnson, but we need to verify your well-being. Would it be possible to coordinate a medical and psychological evaluation through the American consulate in Switzerland? Of course, I replied without hesitation. I am willing to undergo any evaluation that demonstrates I am in perfect mental health and that my decisions have been made with complete lucidity. After coordinating details, I hung up, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. Rebecca had crossed a line of no return. Not only had she wished me dead, but now she was trying to destroy my mental credibility to regain control over my money and my life. I immediately called Anil. Julieta, he greeted, concern in his voice. Glad to hear from you. I've had a very interesting week with your daughter. I bet you have. I just spoke with social services. Rebecca is accusing me of having dementia. That's not all, Anil added. She also hired another lawyer to try to challenge all the legal changes you made before you left. She's alleging you weren't in your right mind when you signed them. Can she do that? She can try, but she doesn't have solid legal grounds. I have recordings of all our conversations where you clearly demonstrate total lucidity. Furthermore, your meticulous planning and independent life in Switzerland contradict any allegations of cognitive decline. What else is she doing? She has tried to access your bank accounts, alleging concern for your well-being. She also wanted to stop the process of reclaiming the house. But since everything is legally backed, and she herself signed documents acknowledging David lost his job again, she has no valid arguments. It was incredible how far Rebecca was willing to go. Anil, I want you to prepare a defamation lawsuit against my daughter. Her false allegations about my mental state could affect my reputation and my legal rights. It would be my pleasure, Anil replied with satisfaction. After seeing how she has treated you, I think it's time for her to face the legal consequences. 2 days later, I showed up at the American consulate in Zurich for the evaluations. The American doctor, An older, experienced man immediately understood. "Mrs. Johnson," he told me after an exhaustive 3-hour evaluation, "not only are you in perfect mental health, but the decisions you have made demonstrate admirable lucidity and courage. Your daughter is clearly trying to manipulate the legal system to recover financial benefits. That will be officially documented. Absolutely. I'll send a detailed report to social services explaining that her allegations are unfounded and that you are living an independent and healthy life in Switzerland." That same afternoon, I received a call from the social worker. "Mrs. Johnson, we have received the medical report. It is clear that your daughter's allegations are baseless. We are going to close the case and notify Rebecca that her complaints were unfounded." "Thank you," I replied. "Will this be in some kind of record?" "Yes. It will be documented that she filed a false complaint about a family member's well-being, which could have legal implications if it is repeated." Perfect. Rebecca had not only failed, but now had an official record of filing false complaints. That night, I decided to do something I had been putting off. Write an open letter detailing my entire experience. Not for Rebecca, but for other mothers living in similar situations of manipulation and emotional abuse. I wrote for 4 hours, documenting every sacrifice, every manipulation, every step I'd taken to reclaim my dignity in my life. It was a 20-page letter, titled, "When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Story of Liberation at 72. I sent it to an online blog specializing in stories of older women who had radically changed their lives. A week later, I received an enthusiastic response from the editor. "Julieta," she wrote, "your story is powerful and inspiring. We have received hundreds of comments from women who completely identify with your experience. Would you be willing to participate in a video interview for our YouTube channel?" I accepted immediately. It was time to use my experience to help other women trapped in toxic family dynamics. The interview was published 2 weeks later and quickly went viral. Thousands of women shared similar stories of adult children emotionally manipulating and financially exploiting them. The comments were a catalog of pain and recognition. "My 40-year-old son lives in my house, doesn't pay rent, and yells at me when I ask him to look for a job," one woman wrote. "My daughter only calls me when she needs money for her vacations, but she never has time to visit me when I'm sick," another shared. "I thought I was the only mother who felt used by her own children," a third confessed. But the most impactful thing came a week after the interview. I received an email from an address I immediately recognized. David, my former son-in-law. "Julieta," he wrote, "I saw your interview on YouTube. I need you to know that I completely agree with you. What Rebecca said was unforgivable, and the way she has treated you for years is unacceptable. I myself have been a witness to how she manipulates and uses you, but I never had the courage to confront her because we were so dependent on your financial help." He continued, "I want you to know that the kids miss you a lot, and they don't understand why you don't come to see them anymore. Rebecca has told them that you're sick and can't visit, but I believe they deserve to know the truth when they are older." The email ended, "I know it's probably too late for apologies, but I wanted you to know that at least one person in this family acknowledges how badly we treated you and how much you sacrificed for us. I hope you are happy in your new life." I read the email 3 times before responding. "David, I appreciate your honesty, but apologies after the fact don't change the damage done. I hope this experience helps you to be a better husband and father, and that you teach your children to value the people who love them before it's too late." It was the first time someone in my family had publicly acknowledged the abuse I'd suffered. It didn't change my decision to stay away, but it did give me a sense of validation I had needed for years. My new life in Switzerland was flourishing. I had real friends who valued me for who I was, not for what I could give. I had rediscovered hobbies and passions. I had peace of mind and financial stability. And most importantly, I had dignity. 6 months after my arrival, my life had taken a shape I never dreamed possible. It was a perfect spring morning when I received a call that would change everything once again. It was Alvera. "Julieta, you have to hear this," she said excitedly. "Rebecca lost the house." My heart stopped for a moment. Despite everything, a part of me still worried about my grandchildren. "What exactly happened?" I asked. "The bank foreclosed on the mortgage last week. David couldn't find a stable job. They fell behind, And since you're the co-signer and are exercising your legal rights, the bank proceeded. Rebecca came to me yesterday crying hysterically. And the kids? They're fine. They moved to a small apartment on the other side of town. David finally got a job in a factory, earning a lot less, but at least something stable. Rebecca had to go back to work, too. It was strange, the mix of feelings. I didn't feel joy for their suffering, but a deep satisfaction of justice. For the first time, Rebecca and David were experiencing the real consequences of their decisions without someone to rescue them. Is there anything else? Elvira continued. Rebecca asked me if I knew how to contact you. She said she wants to genuinely apologize, that she finally understands everything she lost when she lost you. And what did you tell her? I told her that some wounds are too deep to heal and that some words can never be taken back. I also told her that you are flourishing in your new life and that it is probably best for both of you that she doesn't try to contact you. Elvira was right. Over these 6 months, I had built an inner peace I didn't want to risk for empty promises from a daughter who had repeatedly shown she only valued me when she needed me. That afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Anil. Julieta, I have some interesting news. Rebecca's house has finally been sold by the bank, and since you were the co-signer, you have the right to recover your initial investment of $150,000 plus accumulated interest. How much is that in total? $185,000. The bank has already approved the transfer. The money will be in your Swiss account next week. It was incredible. Not only had I recovered my original investment, but I had gained an additional $5,000. Money that would have been lost forever if I had continued to be the ever-sacrificing mother. There's also something else, Anil continued. Your apartment in your hometown has finally sold. After commissions and expenses, the net amount is $95,000. In total, I was receiving almost $300,000 in assets I had given up for lost. With my existing savings and investments, my total net worth now exceeded $500,000. At 72, I was richer than I had ever been. That night, I celebrated at my favorite restaurant. I ordered French champagne and toasted the brave woman who had the courage to start over when everything seemed lost. As I dined, I thought about the journey. I had started as a broken, humiliated mother, devastated by cruel words. But now, I was an independent woman, financially stable, surrounded by genuine friends, living the life I had always dreamed of. The next day, I decided to do something I had been considering for weeks, write a full book about my experience. Not just my story, but a practical guide for older women trapped in toxic family relationships. I contacted a Swiss publisher specializing in self-help and personal growth. The editor, Bridget, was immediately interested. Julieta, she told me during our meeting, your story touches on a topic that affects millions of women but is rarely talked about openly. Emotional abuse by adult children is an epidemic problem that needs to be exposed. I spent the next 3 months writing When Love Hurts, freeing yourself from family emotional abuse after 70. The book documented my personal experience and practical strategies for recognizing manipulation, setting boundaries, and prioritizing one's well-being. It was published 8 months later and became a bestseller in several European countries. The letters I received from readers were incredible. Women from all over the world wrote, telling me how my story had given them courage. I read your book and finally understood that I am not a bad mother for refusing to finance my 35-year-old son's irresponsibility, wrote Maria from Spain. Your story helped me understand that true love does not require self-destruction, Carmen from Mexico wrote. After reading your book, I sold my big house and moved to a small apartment I can afford, without depending on my children's help. For the first time in years, I sleep in peace, Rosa from Argentina shared. But the letter that moved me most came 1 year after the book's publication. It was from a young mother named Andrea. Mrs. Johnson, she wrote, I'm 30 and have a 65-year-old mother who has sacrificed her whole life for me and my siblings. After reading your book, I realized that we are treating her exactly like Rebecca treated you. Your story opened my eyes and made me understand that I was repeating a toxic pattern that could destroy my relationship with my mother forever. Yesterday, I called my mom and apologized for all the years of taking her for granted. I also told her that I want to help her fulfill her own dreams instead of expecting her to always be available for mine. Thank you for helping me understand this before it was too late. That letter made me cry with joy. My pain had served to prevent other families from going through the same destruction. 2 years after my arrival in Switzerland, I received a physical letter. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar, but I couldn't place it. When I opened it, my heart stopped. It was from my grandchildren, now 12 years old. Dear Grandma Julieta, they wrote in childlike handwriting. Dad told us the truth about why you left. He told us that Mom said some very ugly things to you, and that's why you decided to start a new life away from us. We want you to know that we miss you a lot, and that we understand why you left. We also want you to know that we are proud of you for being so brave. When we are older, we would like to visit you in Switzerland if you want us to. We love you, Grandma. The letter was signed by both twins and included drawings of me living happily in the Swiss mountains. I cried for an hour, not out of sadness, but from the understanding that my decision to preserve my dignity had been the right one, even if it meant moving away from people I loved. I decided to write them back. My dearest grandchildren, I wrote, your words are the most beautiful gift I have received in years. I love you deeply and always will, no matter the distance. When you are older and can make your own decisions, the doors to my heart and my home will always be open for you. Until then, I want you to know that your grandma is living a full and happy life surrounded by beauty and peace. Keep this love you feel for me, but also learn from this experience. Words have the power to build or destroy. And relationships are based on mutual respect, not on unilateral sacrifice. I love you with all my heart. Today, 3 years after that terrible birthday that changed my life forever, I am sitting on my balcony in Zurich, looking at the mountains as I write the last lines of my story. I am 75 years old, with assets of more than $600,000, a best-selling book, dear friends from all over the world, and an inner peace I never thought I would experience again. Rebecca asked me as a birthday gift to disappear from her life. I granted her that wish in the most spectacular way possible. What she never calculated was that by losing me, she not only lost a mother who loved her unconditionally, but she also lost the person who had kept her financial world stable for decades. My disappearance was my gift to her. My new life was my gift to me. And it was worth every tear, every sacrifice, and every moment of pain that brought me here. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to have the courage to lose yourself completely in order to be reborn as the person you were always meant to be. This journey was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but also the most empowering. It truly changed everything. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from a toxic relationship, even with family, to find your own peace? What would you have done in my place? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.